everyone. Welcome to this episode of Claims Never Sleep. I'm your host, Megan Henry, and I'm joined again by Amanda. Hey, Amanda, welcome back.
Hey, glad to be back.
I'm so happy to have you back. I love when I have someone co-host with me, and then they're like, "Can I do it again?" And I'm because I feel like some people are like they don't totally get it. Like not that they don't get it, but this is fun and it's easy and it's great to chat with people.
It surely is.
And today we're in for a treat because today we're joined by Jason Novak, and we're here to talk about construction claims and construction defect. And that's why I wanted you to join me, because that is your thing.
It is. It is indeed.
So you're in for a treat because there's no short of laughs, and which don't usually go hand in hand with construction defect claims, but we managed to sneak a few laughs in today. So, let's bring Jason in and talk about construction.
This is the Claims Never Sleep podcast, presented by Cruiser Mitchell, with your host, Megan Henry.
Good afternoon, Jason. Welcome to Claims Never Sleep. I'm so happy to have you. Welcome. How are you today?
Thank you very much. Very excited to be here for first time doing anything like this.
Well, I have to say, I think our listeners are in for a treat. If our pre-recording chat is any indication of how this is going to go, I think everyone's in for a few laughs, some funny stories. So I'm excited. I'm excited to sit down with you. And I'll say, like, you and I talked a few weeks ago and hit it off on the phone. Kind of related about we verged off to talking a lot about kids and kids sports and our schedules with driving our kids from point A to point B at all times. Yes. For their activities. But we're not here to talk about that today, even though we might. We're here to talk about you and claims and everything that goes into this show. But one thing I ask everybody when they come on is, everyone gets in the claims industry like a different way. It's usually not a straight shot. Not many people are like grow up and say, I really want to go into insurance. I want to be a claims professional. That I heard that story actually once. I think I've gotten one person who said that. But I'm curious, what was your path? How did you get into the insurance industry?
So that's a pretty funny story, as a matter of fact. So that was a good segue. So I had finished my degree, and I was looking for, a career, right? I need to get into something. I was doing medical insurance when I wrapped up my degree, and so just exploring, seeing what was out there. A large carrier put out, I forget what job site it was on, but they were doing like an open house, and they were specifically looking for people that either were recent graduates or just limited work experience. But even though you didn't know claims, you had the skill set for it, was the idea. I'm like, oh, okay, and a little description, and I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll go check it out, right? I'm exploring. So I go, and it ends up being, they do this really nice presentation, but it almost sounded like I was going to be like an old school gumshoe detective. I was going to have my little magnifying glass, going out solving mysteries and investigating crime.
Oh, Sherlock Holmes action.
Totally, right? And I'm like, wow. I'm like, and I felt like I had a mind for it. I'm like, this is really interesting. And specifically, they were looking for inexperienced people to get into commercial claims because they didn't really have a backlog of people, and they had some people that had been doing it for a long time. And I think the company was looking to make a little bit of a shift. And so, because I think traditionally it was, I don't know, you had to have like 5 or 10 years of personal lines before you ever got into commercial claims. And here I am just waltzing in like, hey guys, I'm here, So they give this whole presentation, right? Again, sounds like an old old school gumshoe detective. And as you can imagine, I get there to the job, and it is nothing like that at all, right? There's no investigations. There's no hot crime I need to go look into, anything like that. The cars that were promised, the cell phones that were promised, the computers that were promised, none of this.
Oh man.
At this specific location, right? And I'm like, what did I get myself into? And it was really, I've often referred to it as baptism by fire. I was almost out of the industry by the time I was done with this job. Like it was a rough go. In large part because the staff was very overwhelmed. And here you have, they ended up hiring like, I think 4 of us that no experience. We needed mentorship. We needed support. We had questions. You know, I mean, my very first claim, it was like, here, read the claim file. It was still paper at that time. And so, you know, it was like, here, read the claim file and like, tell me what you think the case is worth. And I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, you know, you got to give me something, right? And then it was
what
like,
an arbitrary thing too. It's just like, here, I know you've never done this. Let us know what you think it's worth. You're like,
yeah, let us know.
$50? Like,
yeah. And all I remember from, you know, when I had been younger, which I was pretty, you know, doe-eyed at that time, but like what I remember was 3 times the damages or something like I just had a vague recollection of that. So that's what I came up with at the time. But yeah, no, there was nobody really available to kind of coach you up. And I just, you know, it's tough. Like even that particular example, it was like, once we arrived at the total, it's, you know, the person said, well, call them and settle the claim. And I'm like, what? Again, I've been doing this for like a week at this point. I don't know, you know, you got to give me a little bit more. So it, you know, but I will say by the end of that, that stint, I certainly felt like, man, if I could survive this, you know, I'm feeling pretty good about my ability to, you know, continue on. But yeah, it was a rough go. I wasn't sure if this was right for me, but you know, a couple decades later, I guess so.
You know, it reminds me a little bit of like when I first started practicing, and probably I was it sounds like a little better trained at that point, but I remember the partner I was working for gave me interrogatories, and she's like, here, can you draft responses? And I looked at them and I was like, I don't know how the hell to do this. Like, what do you mean draft? Like, I'm like, I have no idea. And I went into someone else's office and I was like, I'm supposed to do this. Like, what am I supposed to do? And it was someone who had been practicing for like 3 years. She's like, let me look at it. And she helped me out. So, and then I like ended up leaning on her. So did you find that you were like leaning on some of your other colleagues who had started a little bit before you to kind of figure out what to do? Or did you just kind of just figure it out on your own?
Well, yeah, I mean, I sometimes wonder if I did figure it out during that tenure. But there was 4 of us that all started at the same time. So, I mean, we did put our heads together to try and figure stuff out, like as we were working through it. But there literally was nobody willing to, or maybe willing is the wrong word, maybe able to, because of the workload and the demands. There was just nobody available to us that we could really pull from. Like we would get answers to questions here and there, but it was almost one of those situations where if you didn't know what to ask, they weren't offering it up, right?
Yeah.
So you don't know what you don't know until you know it, right? And it was like, well, that would have been helpful up front. We did a lot of legwork to kind of arrive back to this point. So there was a lot of that going on, and it was, there was one guy that got hired who was he had a JD, so he had a little bit better understanding, I think, of what was going on. But so maybe kind of leaned on him. But I mean, he was arguably, maybe a half step ahead of the other 3 of us. He was figuring it out too. Because I think after he got his law degree, if I remember correctly, he was doing like property management for just a little bit before he came over into claims. And
so he didn't really have much of a background that translated over.
Yeah, I mean, other than like the fundamental law education, no. I mean, like that, obviously that is very valuable, right? But for I think what they were asking of us, right? It's a parallel, but it's not exactly like apples to apples, right?
Yeah, like compatible.
Yeah. And so, I think he had certain concepts when they were talking about it, but I guess in practice, I mean, he was just as, Bambi trying to stand up for the first time like the rest of us, knock knee and not sure which way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like, I don't know if you agree, but like while law school, I think, gives you a foundation of knowledge, it does not give you a foundation of practice.
Exactly.
Unless you, I don't know. I mean, when I came out of law school, I didn't have I didn't even know I just heard about these insurance defense firms. I'm like, I didn't even know what that meant. I had not the faintest idea until I started working at one. I was like, oh, but even then,
That's what it is.
it took a little while. Even then, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of get it, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's true. I mean, and kind of back to something you said at the beginning. It's like, yeah, I don't know that I've met anybody that said that they grew up wanting to get into this specific line of business. I will say it's been very rewarding. It's turned out really well for me, but I as a kid, that was not even remotely a thought in my mind. I wanted to be a professional wrestler, I wanted to do, something on the radio, something like that, but not insurance claims. What is that? What are we talking about?
I will say you do have a great voice, though. Maybe you should host your own podcast too.
Yeah.
You have a good a good radio voice. Like it has a good sound to it. So
thank you.
The door is not closed for you.
Okay. Well, that was always my thought. I was like, if the moneymaker won't sell, I'll just use the voice and stay behind the camera.
Right? And so at this first stop, though, what kind of claims were you handling? Was it like motor vehicle claims?
So it was premise liability, products liability. So they had a lot of apartment complexes. There was like small like franchisee restaurants or franchise restaurants. And just, anything from broken teeth to like a gate, smack the vehicle, stuff like that. Not really high exposure until I was there for I think 2.5, 3 years. Not until maybe the last year that I started getting some higher exposure stuff out of that. Like a lady I remember was going up some steps at her apartment complex, outside steps, not to the actual building. And she tripped and she broke her hip. And so that was a bigger exposure at the time. But a lot of it was pretty small. But I mean, in retrospect, it was like, wow, that would be a cakewalk today, right? In some regards. But volume aside, right? That would be a cakewalk. But it was very paper driven. They were very just, boxes needed to be checked and letters, needed to go out, and kind of almost like the value of the claim. It took a little bit of a back seat. So it was, but again, it was good because it helped, right?
Yeah.
Going forward, I've seen this, I've seen how this works, right? And again, I've got no point of reference at this point. And it's like, all right, so is this how it's going to be everywhere? Or is this, is this just here? And is this always appropriate? There's a lot to kind of glean from it and take and move on. But yeah, so a lot of premise liability, products liability, no construction for those first few years.
So then what was your next step?
I hopped right into construction defect.
Okay.
There was a fairly mass exodus of that claims department, which from what I've said might not sound so surprising at this point. And there was a third party administrator that was setting up shop a couple cities over. And one of the people in my department knew somebody over there, and they said, look, we need to up staff by I think it was 6 people, something like that. They were getting a big account and they just needed bodies in California specifically. And so I went over to talk to the guy, and he was like, well, you don't know anything. But
fair. I don't, but,
that guy likes you and you seem like you might be able to do it. Right. And so we'll give you a shot. I'm like, great, thanks. It was interesting. It was time and expense billing rather than a salary. And so that was a whole other, now this is something new too, right? So learning construction defect and and again, taking that initial experience, and it's like, is it going to be like this? And then, making sure you're watching your 0.1s and 0.2s of billing and all that, and, want to get paid, right? But also getting it right and learning, right?
Yeah.
And fortunately, this is the first time I run into somebody who's willing to invest and take the time to help me learn and understand.
Yes.
And I am forever grateful. There was an old boss of mine, Gerald Wright, who he's still working a little bit, but he just great guy, willing to take the time, patient, we're buddies to this day. Like, I'm just forever indebted to that, because up to that point, I'm like, okay, so great. I've scored this, what seems like an opportunity. It's kind of a niche of a niche, right? But I don't really know anything about construction defect, right? I get the concept in general, but I don't know anything about it, right?
Yeah.
And, here are these policies, and it sounds like the endorsements or exclusions, or what do we call them, are going to be a little more important. And, how does this work, right? And so he was willing to take the time, and that's kind of where I think I really started to better understand what this might all be about.
Yeah, well, because you found a mentor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that really makes a huge difference in in anywhere, but it helps your growth. And then now you had someone you could actually teach you how to do things the right way. And not that the other way is always bad. Like, it's not horrible to jump in and just try to figure it out. You just might pick up some bad habits.
I mean, there's that. I think about, like, looking back at it, I'm like, was anyone concerned with leakage? What if I was paying on something I shouldn't have, right?
Yeah.
Or overpaying, I'm like, I didn't know. I mean, I was trying my best legitimately, but I didn't know, right? It was one of those things. You don't know what you don't know until you know.
Exactly.
It. Yeah. But yeah, fortunately, at this next stop, again, I found somebody willing to take the time. And I was there for, I should say, there was a couple iterations of that third-party administrator, but I actually was working with the same client carrier for over 8 years at that point.
That's good.
And so, yeah, I kind of grew with that book and had different roles. Interestingly, wraps were kind of newer at that point as a product. And I don't know that anyone maybe totally recognized the potential that you could be paying on those. I guess in terms of assignment, I should say, like, I'm sure people knew what they were doing, but just in terms of who you were giving these things to. And I started getting them very early on. And again, that's its own niche, right? So now we're at a niche of a niche of a niche. And, just kind of wading through that, making sure you understand that these are all insureds and they've got their own independent rights under the policy and things like that, just how that's supposed to work. So it turns out I've been dealing with those for pretty much as long as I've been dealing with construction defect.
So for some of our listeners who might not be as familiar with construction defect, could you give us like a 6th grade version of when you say wraps, what that means?
Sure. Yeah.
Because we have claims people from all over, all different claims.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I would say, like, the main difference is, your standard practice policies, it's, you insure Bob the builder, and Bob goes out and does certain work. And if there's a problem with it, and it's caused some damage, you report it to the carrier rather, and they address the claim. With wraps or OSIPs or CSIPs, essentially you've got everybody working on this project is insured under the same policy. So you could have, 40 insureds under one policy, one limit, and that's going to address the exposure, whether it's something small, something big, whatever the case is. They're all insured, and you all have your own individual rights under the policy. It's not like we say, well, because the policy is issued to this first named insured, the rest of you are like second class citizens. No, you're all, you're all insured, you're all equals, and you get the same rights anybody would under the policy. And ideally, those policies are supposed to limit a lot of extraneous costs, litigation costs, because we're supposed to be kind of kumbaya and working together to get, to address the exposure, whatever it is. Yeah.
And I definitely think it's the better approach, because especially in construction defect matters, I mean, in any matter, when you're pointing your finger at the other defendants, all it does is make the plaintiff happy.
Exactly.
So like, great, they're fighting.
It only helps them.
Yeah. Conquer and divide, or divide and conquer.
Yeah.
So to kind of take a cohesive approach that reality is more likely than not, there is no defect here. Or if there is, we're in it together rather than pointing fingers. It makes the litigation process go a little more smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got a case right now where the first name insured's personal counsel had actually started the litigation by pursuing a claim against the owner for monies not paid.
Mhm.
Then a tale as old as time, the owner turns around and says, well, you did a terrible job and I've got all these construction defects and now I need you.
Counterclaim.
Right. So like, okay, so now we're involved, right? Now you've called this out, right? So we're here. So, we got panel counsel on it for our first name insured, and we're just kind of getting everything, going. And then unbeknownst to us, the personal counsel for that first name insured has now filed a cross action against 8 subs who are all enrolled in the policy. And I just found out about it. Like, this is 48 hours ago. I called the panel counsel. I'm like, do you know what's going on? Because I see he didn't file it. It was the other, attorney, right? I'm like, do you know why? Is there a compelling reason as to why this happened? And he's prepping for his own separate trial. And he's like, he called me a couple days ago. He's like, I'm going to follow up with him, find out what the story is. And I'm like, we don't want this. There's like, it is just going to ratchet up cost, and it doesn't change the pot of money. It's still, I think in this case, it's a $2 million limit. Like, it doesn't get any bigger by bringing these parties in. And the tenders the tenders for defense had already started trickling in. 48 hours had passed. That's it. Mm-hmm. And they were already saying like, defend, I need a defense. I need a defense. And it's like, I get it. I'm going to try and stop this, so you don't have anything to worry about. I don't have anything to worry about, but, and it's a lack of familiarity with it, and just assuming that because this is how I handle all the other cases, I'm going to handle this case the same way. And that's a great way to spend a lot of extra money without having to.
Yep. Yeah. A lot of people aren't familiar with wraps like that.
Right.
And I'm gonna throw this out to both of you though. How do you go about like educating others without being condescending about it? But like, because like I'll say most of the construction defect cases I deal with, it is every party for themselves, and there is finger pointing abound. And so I can see why this starts happening. But like on your side, how do you start to, for lack of a better term, educate the parties on to the real scenario there? Like it seems like maybe they don't understand.
Yeah, you kind of have to ease them into it.
Yeah.
Let me hold your hand. Let me hold your hand. Let's go for a walk with me. Like,
let's talk.
Yeah, I think first asking like the why, right? Because every now and then there is some compelling explanation as to like why that might have happened. I know I've got a case in might be Montana or Idaho. I'm not sure, but our first name insured insisted that we file a cross action against the implicated sub. And peeling back that onion a little bit, I'm like, well, but why? Like, because again, it's not going to change the bucket of money. And what he explained is that their policy, I think it's like a $50,000 or $100,000 deductible. Mm-hmm. Their contracts are set up where that obligation would get passed down to that implicated subcontractor, provided that they're brought into the litigation. Like that was the whole thing for it, right? And I'm like, okay, understood, right? Yeah, and it's like, because a lot of times they may have contract language that dictates it, but it doesn't necessarily require that, right? And this one did, unfortunately. And so it was like, all right, I understand, we'll make this work. We'll make this work. And so we took the steps and assigned separate counsel, and everything's moving forward as it should, but that's the exception. I mean, most of the time it's again just a recipe for more cost. And so a lot of times after hearing the explanation, which is generally like, well, this is they seem to be responsible, and the contract says that we've got this indemnity language in our favor, and a whole myriad of things that sound like a very standard approach to doing it. And I'm like, okay, but they're all insured under this policy, right? So, and just trying to walk them through and check any tone or frustration at the door, right? Because clearly, and like, because bottom line is like, you're a competent person. If you knew this information, you wouldn't have taken this step, but you took the step because you didn't have this information. So I'm going to lay it out.
Total ignorance of what exactly how it works.
Yeah. And so then once they know, it's usually like, all right, we can, just kind of talk about what our options are, either to pull it back or, maybe get a tolling agreement or whatever, just to kind of not make it a hot button issue and nobody's incurring a bunch of costs because this was errantly done.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, it just seems like a great method to control defense costs too. So you, like, feasibly, I guess you have these subs that, you know, they could hire their own counsel, but feasibly everyone could be defended by or represented by the same counsel because you're under the same policy. I can understand, like, okay, well, but I'm unsure, you know, people feeling or entities feeling not at ease with that.
Yeah.
But it's the overarching concept seems to be like, okay, well, we're all under one umbrella, so we can save on defense costs and have one attorney, one liability expert.
Yeah.
not 17 liability
experts. Costs.
Right. I mean, it really does. I mean, it's exactly what you're saying. I mean, the idea is that it's more of a, I mean, I jokingly say kumbaya, but really it's supposed to be like a shared approach, common interest, eliminates a lot of the finger pointing, not totally, but most of the time it eliminates it, or a good majority of it.
Yeah.
Saves on costs. And, you know, assuming there's a proper insurance tower, I mean, you're really, nobody's left holding the bag, you know, and nobody's, you know, on both sides. I mean, plaintiff or the insured side, right? Like everybody's covered basically. It's just a matter of like, how exactly are we going to land this plane? But like everybody is going to get, you know, everyone's in the plane safe. It's going to land. Everyone's going to get out. It's going to be great. You know?
Exactly.
And I do like it. I mean, it's because I still deal with, you know, the standard policies as well. And I mean, you know, I don't have to deal necessarily with the co-carrier drama sometimes of a time on risk, you know, argument that makes no sense or whatever. I'm not, you know, begging anybody to just do the right thing. It's like, I'm in control of the limits, right? You know, and everybody that's enrolled, it's like we're driving towards a common goal, right?
Exactly.
And, you know, it just seems to go smoother. Not to say it does not have a myriad of challenges along with it, but I think that aspect is a lot smoother. I think it does what it's supposed to do in that regard.
Definitely.
So, and I Jason, I believe you and I talked about this though when we were on the phone, but are there any areas or jurisdictions that you're seeing more of an uptick in litigation compared to others?
Not, I mean, everywhere seems to be more busy. I mean, I'm getting claims in states I have not seen before. So, I mean, I guess that's maybe somewhat telling. Like, I got Utah recently and I went, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know there's buildings out there, but I just hadn't seen a claim, you know, so that was new. You know, it's, I mean, it's still California heavy. It's still Florida heavy. It's still Texas heavy. For this particular role, I am kept out of New York. There's, I think, like a designated desk for that
labor law.
So I don't know about the volume or if it's upticking over there or not. But I will say everywhere seems to be more busy, and I do seem to be seeing claims in states that I had not. Like, and again, I've been at this place for over 5 years now, and maybe not until the last 12 months that I start seeing some of these other states. So it's possible it's a new business area for us, but it's also perhaps indicative of just an overall uptick.
Yeah.
And are you seeing any sort of uptick in types of claims though? And this goes for you too, Amanda, because you see a lot as well.
Yeah.
You know, like, because I don't know, this goes back to like homeowners type stuff, but I remember like a few years ago, it was stucco. You kept hearing about stucco everywhere. And
oh
so
my gosh, yeah. Stucco haunts my dreams. In Florida here with the coastal conditions.
Sure.
I know, and a lot of stucco homes.
Yes.
For myself, I would say one thing that started to happen, and it's not like a epidemic yet, but you know, typically with construction defect claims, it's you know, it's long tail, right? It's you know, the work was done, years have passed, and now we're saying, hey, you know, the stucco's cracking, you know, in a way that it shouldn't, the concrete's cracking in the way that it shouldn't, you know, things like that. But again, we're, you know, depending on venue, we're 5 years, 8 years later, things like that. We've had it on some wraps and OSIPs recently where buildings probably not even warm yet, and they're coming in pursuing a construction defect claim. It's not unusual that we might get a, if let's say it's like a renovation and there's some component of the building that was existing, and you're doing the renovation and you damage part of the existing, so it's happening during construction. That happens, and that's not so unusual. Or again, a neighboring property gets affected. Totally get it. That's not unusual. But for a construction defect claim on, let's say, like a 500 unit apartment building, and the building's not even a year old, and you're pursuing it, like that's a little bit of an anomaly. And again, last 12 months, been seeing more of that, where again, buildings maybe not even fully occupied yet, and they've already got their claim going. And
absolutely,
not to say necessarily it's bad, but it's unusual. I don't know that it's been happening long enough for us that I could say like what the ramifications are like long term, but it's surprising, I guess, is all I could say. Because again, having done this for a couple decades, it's like that's not usually the standard, the status quo. It's usually years down the road that we're first hearing about whatever's been going on for the last few years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot more newer claims with the new buildings and turnover, with the associations coming in Florida. It's 558.
Yeah,
they go through everything and they find all these defects, and it's like they've been living there for a year.
Yeah. Did you, Amanda? Did you find beforehand though that wasn't happening quite as quick? Where
I mean, I started practicing in complex lit and construction about 4 years ago, and it wasn't as common. It was more so like failure of stucco like 4 or 5 years out at least. And now in the last 2 years, like you said, Jason, it's been like more 558s, more newer construction. It's just like failing allegedly,
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if they're handing out like surveys as people come in the building, like, if you see anything, pull this out,
Did you see a crack in the wall recently?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I do think there's something to be said about that too, because if there could be things that someone may never notice, right, until someone else, say it's like a condo, and some neighbor points it out, like, oh, it's really drafty, these windows, and then it just like kind of like catches.
Like snowballs.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, there are some cracks. Of course, there's some there.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people aren't aware what construction defect litigation even is, and I think that, like, the knowledge is spreading because people ask me, "What kind of attorney are you?" "Oh, I do construction." They're like, "What?" They're so confused. They're like, "What is that?" And I have to explain. They're like, "Wow, they have a lawyer for everything."
Yeah, true.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think especially when you have like the bigger developments, I mean, it does seem like it's more common knowledge now than when I first started. But you've got you've just got attorneys that I don't know exactly how they solicit or advertise themselves. I mean, obviously you can see the ones on the billboard, but I don't feel like construction attorneys are generally advertising that way, right?
No.
So it's like how exactly they're getting their names out there or making themselves known to like a huge tract development. I don't know exactly, but they find them. Obviously they find them.
Do you find though that, like, I'm thinking more of like homeowner type situations, whether it be in a condo or just like development builds, like that could hit someone so personally. Like if you have like a new construction, and if things aren't going exactly right, I feel that there's a emotion attached to it, because it's like, it's someone in their home and then they get hyper focused on anything that could appear to not be absolutely correct. Like, do you see some of that or?
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's been claims where, the siding wasn't done correctly, or, they felt like the paper under the roof wasn't, exactly what they asked for. But listening to them talk about it, it was like, somebody insulted their mother, and it was like,
that's what I mean.
Hey, like, hey, we'll get through this, but like, let's, you're up here, and
you're taking it personally.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons I prefer construction defect or, just construction related claims rather than some of the injury claims, because of that dynamic can really get out of hand on an injury claim. And I still deal with the injury claims, but my preference is almost to go with the property because you tend to not get that as often. But when you do, especially when we're talking about like the siding of a house, it's almost like I'm having a tough time wrapping the emotion. Like I understand if somebody, passed away or seriously injured, why you're emotionally so, wound up, right? I get it. Like I'm in by all means, right? But the siding, again, not that it's nothing, and not to completely dismiss it, but it's sometimes it's a little surprising the way that you're confronted with that. But you give people the space to kind of say what they need to say and hopefully get back to business. But it's fortunately it's far less, I think, with that. But yeah, it's your house. You're very focused on your house. But I think that's where the attorney doesn't do us any favors, right? Because sure, maybe there's something there, maybe there's a problem. So there should be an opportunity to fix that problem, right? How about we get together, we do a big lawsuit, and we're gonna get you guys tons of money, right? Like, and so that's kind of like this very high level misconception that I think some of these plaintiffs get. And so, it's not just a crack. They're looking at millions of dollars on the wall that is coming their way because
it's like a paycheck for them,
Yeah, the drywall's cracking. So I should be entitled to $500,000.
Exactly.
It's funny. A few years ago, I had a friend who had damage to their home. This is not totally construction defect related, but it goes to the emotional side of it. And she had a tree that fall in her house, so she needed to get new siding. And I was helping her with manage the insurance part of it because I was like, okay, I can talk the talk, but was consistently convinced that she was getting ripped off by everybody. Like first she's like, I'm getting ripped off by the insurance company. I'm like, you're not. Like,
yeah.
Like you're not. And then the siding company was ripping her off, and I'm like, but they're not. They're just putting on siding. And then like there was some issue with the roof or something leaking, and she's like, she thought like the siding company came out and purposely damaged her home. I was like, they didn't. I kept having to be like the middleman, and I would talk to the contractors and the insurance company and kind of just to like help move this along, because she was like in my ear like they purposely went on the roof and they damaged my shingles. And then I would like talk to the contractor. He's like, no, I like pulled back the shingles to make sure there wasn't damage to the roof.
Exactly.
And there wasn't. And then some of those shingles were damaged, so I took some of my own shingles that were matching, and I completed the project. So I was like, if anything, they're doing everything to help you out. But I say this because there is that personal connection to the home, and then also when you're dealing with that, like sometimes there's this like distrust of insurance companies thinking that like they're gonna rip me off. I know they're gonna rip me off, and it's trying to change the narrative that is not in fact what's happening and what anyone is striving to do. They are just trying to figure out what the cost is and what you are owed and to pay the cost.
Exactly.
Yes. No, you're right. That there is a total stigma about it. I mean, look, and I've had homeowner claims of my own. I've had auto claims of my own. I get it. I get where the impression comes from, right? One of my kids, one of the kids in my child's class, there we go. One of the kids in my child's class, they were on vacation and their house caught fire. And I just, it was totally, and very, very interesting burn in that the outside of the house looks completely fine. The inside just baked, like things melted off the wall. Like, very weird, right?
How did that happen? What was
it? An electrical fire?
Yeah, electrical fire.
Tell us more. What was the cause?
Well, yeah. I mean, I had questions too as soon as I heard it. It was like, because he said that, like, look, other than the fire department knocking in the front door and putting a hole in one spot in the roof to like do whatever they were going to do, when you look at the outside of the house, it is completely intact. It does not look like it burned at all. Yeah.
Wow.
When you go inside and it's like, glass is like black but not shattered. And so the fire sometimes. Yes, yeah, totally. Like he had a painting on the wall, oil painting, and he said the canvas didn't burn, But if you look below on the wall where the canvas was, all the oil melted off.
Whoa.
And I'm like,
Wow.
that is the strangest thing I've ever heard.
So
I,
off.
yeah. So, but he had a little bit of familiarity with insurance, but he was just describing he actually didn't know what I did at the time. Right. So he's describing his, general feel of the insurance company and the adjuster and, I would just make sure I wouldn't get ripped off, insurance companies, so on and so forth. I was like, yeah, no, I know them. And just kind of moving along with the conversation. And it was probably maybe 15 minutes after he had told that story, somehow he's just like, so what do you do? Right. And I was like, oh, I'm an insurance adjuster. Right. And then he immediately thought back to something I said when he was talking. And he was just like, oh, that's why you said, yeah, some of them do. Right. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, no, I'm like, because I explained, like, look, if something happened, right, and you can show us it happened, right, and I look at the cost and whether I get an expert or it's something I happen to know, and it makes sense, like, we're good. There's nothing else to talk about, right? Like, let's wrap this up. Let's move this along. I don't need to nickel and dime you. I need to just make sure that, like, you're not trying to get the Cadillac of fixes for the Pinto that you had, right?
Yep.
And that's it. And I think, to the point about the story about the roof, right? I think in the sighting, it's like they're just trying to figure out, like, if you're not showing up with it, right, with all that proof, somebody at some level needs to find out, right? And so that's what they're going through and doing. And then I'm sure it's going to go forward, and it did go forward, towards the appropriate resolution at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm really perplexed about this fire though. Like, I'm like, were there flames? Like, a slow indoor bake?
It's like I've seen it before, not in the case, but in like on one of those TikToks or something. Like, I get those random like catastrophe TikToks, and they're like, "There's an electrical fault," and it like it literally melts like the interior of the walls and like puts off like heat. Yeah, it's crazy. It looks like embers almost.
Yeah.
So they were out of town, and they're I forgot what camera they have on the inside. They got two little ones, and like the camera in, I think, like their sunroom or something told them something was going on. So they look, and they don't really see anything, right? But they keep looking at the camera, and they see, I don't know, almost like something floating, right? And after a while, they're like, I think that's smoke. Right. But the like an alarm hadn't gone off yet. Right. And so it was just like, well, but it, like, nothing was making sense. Right. So they weren't so far. I think they were maybe like an hour out from town. So they start driving back to find out what's going on. By then, they've called, I think, parents or somebody that lives nearby. Can you go check it out? And sure enough, like, there was a fire, but it wasn't burning throughout the house. It was I think it was pretty localized to where the electrical was, and it was burning everything in that area, but the flames weren't tearing through the house. But the heat had been going for a long time. And that's where you got that baking effect. So there's areas of the house that were almost untouched, but the smell from everything baking, they can't get it out of the clothing. Like, all of it is like, it's done. Like, there's no dry cleaning that's gonna fix that. But they've got rooms upstairs that look completely untouched, that are, you really can't go in there without a mask for more than a few seconds. And then they've got other rooms that are like completely like black, like again, like overbaked basically, right? Like, and just things melted rather than charred. I hadn't heard of anything like that before, but it was an electrical fire.
Wow. Yeah, and I'm sure the house is like a total loss.
And
and
all the property inside of it.
I mean, they salvaged just like a few things, but that's it. Because it's got that smell, and there's no getting out. I mean, like the kids' toys, like, it just just awful.
Yeah.
Not to be a downer, but that was kind of, it's claims though, right? I mean, it's like, but he's getting a fair shake with his insurance company, and they're delivering. And, we talked about, I'm like, look, just document everything. Like, that's going to be the biggest thing at the end of the day. Like, document it. If you can show it, you're good. Like, there should be no reason this doesn't find a way to the result that makes sense. But there is that inherent distrust, and I can some degree
Yeah.
understand where that comes from. But I don't know. One claim at a time. One claim at a time.
Yes. And that's a common theme that comes up here a lot is the that insurance always has a PR problem.
Mhm.
And I think the bad PR wasn't created by insurance. It was created by plaintiffs firms. But it's hard to beat, because
Yeah.
I think that just the inherent feeling is like, oh, they're out to get you or to undercut you. And that's been created by other entities to have individuals kind of buy into that idea that, okay, yeah, I need an attorney because otherwise the insurance company is going to screw me.
Yeah, to curse them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think also sometimes the way that the product is like marketed, like it, because again, you're selling it to people that don't deal with it all the time, right? Like they're
Yeah.
buying peace of mind, basically, right? And so, if you don't get into an explanation of it, it then becomes like they're going to have whatever preconceived idea in their head, and they're just going to roll with that, right? So by the time they get to me, it's like they're assuming it's going to go the way that they think, and they've never really dealt with it, right? So I'm explaining something they've never heard before. They're hearing it for the first time, and it's that time when they actually might need something, and that's not always the easiest phone call. I had a case recently where it was a strange lawsuit, really strange lawsuit, and essentially the plaintiff alleged that they didn't do the work, a lack of performance of the work, and because of that they've sustained damages. Well, as the liability carrier, I'm like, this isn't really damage arising from your work. It's kind of the opposite. Like they're saying, I got damages because you didn't do anything, right?
Yeah, like the omission.
Yeah. And so I explained to them, I'm like, I can appreciate why this is frustrating. I was like, but this is the opposite of what we're normally going to get. It's normally like you did it and you did a bad job, and so therefore I have damages, right? That's the typical kind of claim, right? There's not really a path to coverage here. It's not damage arising out of your work. They're literally saying the opposite here.
Yeah.
Right? And she lit me up. She was not happy, and
I can see that's why how that went. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I thought you were wrong, but I could see that would be why you got that sort of reaction, because she's like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah. What do you mean?
Yeah, I'm like, and it's one of those like, look, I'm not saying I agree with them. I'm just telling you that they have filed one of the more unusual complaints, right? Because it's almost never that. It's the opposite. And so it's like, I pay insurance, and the time I need you, you're not there. And I'm like, I want to. I just, if they, if I'm like, and I said, like, look, if at any point they change the way that they're making their claims, and they say that, in fact, you did do something and it did cause damage, right? Like, please let me know, right? I'm like, but at the moment, this is what we have. And it's just, I'm the first one telling them that, like, that's kind of an important piece to triggering this policy, is that they need to allege that damages arising or bodily injuries arising from the work that you performed. And here it's just not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of it goes to most people they don't understand insurance policies and how they work and how they're triggered, because they are complicated. I mean, like, they're very complicated. And yeah, my mom recently had a water claim at her place in Florida from the hurricane last year, but of course doesn't have flood coverage, because who can afford that in Florida? And when I was trying to navigate this for her, what she thought in her mind what she had coverage for and what she actually had coverage for were vastly different.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, I have flood coverage. And I'm looking at the policy. I'm like, I don't think you do. Like, and then you add in having independent adjusters into the mix, and you add that with older people, and forget about it. She did not know who was who. She's like, well, no, the insurance company was out. I was like, that wasn't the insurance company. That was
Independent adjuster. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Public
and-
adjuster, independent adjuster. Yeah, you don't know who's saying what.
I think it's confusing for anyone, you know.
yes.
Like, the average lay person doesn't know up from down when it comes to like insurance policies. The average person has never read an insurance policy, let alone like knows all the components and factors.
Oh, I mean, prior to getting into this industry, I certainly hadn't. You know,
No.
I mean, it's not like, oh, I want to read all the terms and conditions of this Apple Music agreement.
Right. When you click
Yeah.
it, no.
Yeah.
We're good. I'm gonna let you guys have this one. Yeah.
So going with that, what is something throughout your career in construction defect? What's something that like you've learned a lot about in construction that like surprises you, that you like you've now become like you've had a claim in that you've had to go all, because that's what happens, right? We get these claims and you learn about some tiny little facet of construction. Now suddenly you're like a little party expert on this, but is there something that stands out in your mind that you're like, now you know way too much about?
Sure. Okay. So two things come to mind. One, and I didn't do a deep dive on it, but just the term hot mopping. I didn't know anything about that. The first
Amanda
time I heard
knows.
it, I'm like,
Yeah.
what was that again? All right, like repeat it.
Like what?
So I if I understand it correctly, it's like if you picture like a shower enclosure, right? Like so before, I believe it's before you put the enclosure down there. I don't know what the material is, but it's essentially the method of applying kind of like almost like a tar, I think.
Yes, it's like cement almost.
Yeah, below, and it just I think helps to ensure there's not leakage and what have you.
Yeah, it seals out like water intrusion for especially like things like showers need to hot mop because there's constant water coming through, and it just creates another barrier underneath the tile and all those exterior substrates.
Yes, thank you. That you said that much better than I.
I'm nerdy about stuff like this.
The first time I heard that, I'm like, surely you're making this up. Like, because I was so new to the industry that I was just like, they're pulling my leg. Like, you want me to go somewhere and say hot mopping and get laughed at. That's what this is, right?
This is a fake. This is
you're not coming up with this. So, but no, it turns out that's actually a thing. The other thing that I learned, and I probably have heard just a lot about this over the years, is wood being installed in the house and like the acclimation process. And if it's not done correctly, the warping and the bending and what that goes on with it, and the way it's going to look in the end product if it's not done correctly. And that's just it surprises me sometimes how often that comes up. And and just in some cases having to trace back like where it might not have been, because it's not, sometimes it doesn't really happen at the job site. It's like they might have actually done what they were supposed to do, but in transit it wasn't kept properly, or it was sourced and it was cut and it was in a control environment before it got to the transit company. It was held off site and that wasn't control. So there's all kinds of stuff to like dig into with that, where it may not be just the installer put it, so therefore you're the one that's having to eat the exposure.
Jason, have you dealt with efflorescence before?
To some degree, yes.
It's huge in Florida, where it's like aesthetically unappealing. I'm sure you guys have seen this, where like you'll see like tile or siding on a house and there's like this white like film on it.
Yeah.
And like there's so many claims here because the coastal area, there's salt in the air, and I learned all about, I had to read like hours and hours of things about cement and how the water transfers through it, and I was like, my brain.
This is gonna be great for trivia night, right?
Yes.
Although I want to know the trivia night this comes up at, because I have yet to see one. Everyone I'm at is more about pop culture. Pop culture.
It's at CLM. It's
CLM.
It's super nerd trivia night.
Easy at CLM. You got to have a password to get in.
Well, and then one thing that I've noticed too throughout defending construction defect claims too is the importance of vetting your subs. Because so many times the issues that I see arise out of maybe hasty hires or low bid hires on subs, and problems tend to arise there. Have you experienced that on your end?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we've got, because of the wrap setup,
Yeah, that probably helps it out a little bit.
well, it does help it, right? But
Yeah.
what I find is that we may have different locations, different projects, but I'll start to see like a sub's name pop up over a period of time, right?
Mhm.
They're on different projects. It's not, like we're insuring them necessarily directly, right? But because they're enrolled, I'm like, I wish there was a way for us to kind of capture that information. And,
Yeah.
when they're underwriting, saying like, look, when you guys go to hire for this trade, if you're going to hire this sub who's kind of known in this area, like either there's going to be an uptick in premium or just don't do it, right? And
Yeah.
premium stays the same. But I think that's a hard thing to capture data wise, right?
Yeah.
Or even control or dictate, to like a general contractor. So that's typically more what I see, is that they're popping up, but it's, again, when you look at like the claims, the loss runs and what have you, it doesn't show them anywhere, really. It's the first name insured that's listed on these things. But meanwhile, it's the same excavation company on 4 projects in a 15-month period that have all caused varying degrees of damage at these different locations, right?
Mhm.
But they're nowhere to be found on the log of the claim. It just happens to be they're an insured under the policy.
Yeah.
I think it's like the nature of the construction process too that leads to like instances like this, where there's the bidding process if you're doing like a bid design build, and then the most responsible and responsive subcontractor is getting all these bids, and it's the same company over and over, and then you're like, hey, I think that's a problem.
Yeah. And it's like, how do you address that? I mean, it's more of an underwriting issue, right? It's like, so we can, every now and then I'll if I see something consistently enough, like I'll let them know. But again, from their end, it's like, that's not who they're engaging with, right? They're engaging with, again, big developer A, right? And I don't know how you control that, or even if you can control it at all, right? It's like they're going to hire who they're going to hire, and that's part of what they're charging the premium for, right? So I think it's just more of a calculated risk is, I think, the approach. But I do wish, at times, like when we see like regular offenders, it would be nice to be able to say like,
little red flag,
anybody but that guy. You can't hire that guy,
Well, because I see it on my end, because sometimes I'm defending those people, those entities, and you're kind of like,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, oh, totally. Right? Like, gosh, I wish these contracts were better, right? Like, I mean, how many times have you had that conversation, right? Like, reporting to the carrier, or even to yourself, you're like, yeah, I wish this was a little bit better drafted.
Yeah, I wish there was just they had a team involved, a contract drafting team.
Yeah, I mean,
it's almost like someone should have written this better.
Yeah, well, it's almost like it was an important document that should have been reviewed by somebody who does this for a living. I don't know.
But what could ever go wrong?
It's only like, I wish we could hire someone to write these contracts.
Yeah,
there's only a profession for that.
Yeah.
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 But we got it off. We got it off the internet, so it's cool.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Jason, we are pretty much out of time. It's been absolute pleasure having you. Before I let you go, though, one thing I ask all my guests who come on, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your younger self?
Ooh. Well, I hope you're able to edit for time while I think about this for a minute.
Absolutely. They don't need to know how long you had to think about it.
Yeah, it is a good question. It is a good question. I think giving yourself grace, to make the mistakes, try and learn from them. I think that's probably one thing. Maybe should have stuck with that tennis career a little bit longer to see how that shook out. Maybe that's another one that was going pretty good.
Do you still play?
I'm trying to get back into it a little bit. But there was probably like 15 years where like I didn't. So it's coming back. It wasn't too bad. I was more like, I don't want to hurt myself when I'm out there. The big thing.
I played tennis my whole life, and I'm currently also on like a I guess retirement hiatus, and I got back into it a while ago, and I found I have a hard time with tennis now because I can't do it sometimes. Like I either have to play 3 days a week or not at all, because it's a very frustrating sport, I think, to play sometimes, because then like you mess up and then you're mad at yourself because you're like, I knew I know how to do this, but I can't do it. I can't execute it right now because I'm not playing enough, but I don't have time to play as much as I want to play, so I just won't play at all.
Yeah. Right. It's hard to get me time, right? To go do that. And you're right, because it's like your brain knows what should have happened there, right?
Yes.
But you're just not in a position yet to do it, right? And I went out there with somebody who he's about the same age. We didn't know each other back then, but we actually played on some of the same like circuits back in the 90s. And he was hitting shots that I'm like, I know with more practice I could have got to, but I told myself before I got started that day, I'm like, that happens. I'm like, just let it go. I'm like, you're not trying to be a hero. I'm like, we don't want to tear an ACL. We don't want to pull a hammy while we're out here. Just let it go. You know, you'll get them once you're up to speed, you know? So again, back to giving yourself grace, right?
Yes.
You know, like not being too hard on yourself, but yeah, in my head, I was screaming at myself a little bit in the moment.
And now I'm going to go on a tennis tangent before I close up, but do you like, and I apologize for the pickleball players out there, but do you judge the pickleball players being like,
100%. Yeah. Because
you play pickleball because I judge them too. I'm like, maybe I should start playing pickleball because I can't play tennis as well anymore.
Well, no, you know that
it's pretty easy.
Well, right. So, like, as a tennis player, I can play pickleball, right? There's like no problem. I can hop into it. And you're right. If I can't play tennis, maybe I should just play pickleball because I don't need to do as much to be able to do it, right? But a pickleball player cannot slide right into tennis. It just
absolutely not.
No. I mean,
they're so different.
There's a few exceptions. I'm sure someone out there is like, hey, no, I can do it, right? But for the most part, the average pickleball player cannot just slide in and play tennis.
I agree.
You guys would hate this. My building has 2 beautiful tennis courts, and they just converted them into 6 pickleball courts.
Drives me crazy.
That happened nearby. The one I played on as a kid. That a lot of that structure got converted to pickleball, and I'm like, memories.
Yeah,
just desecrated.
It's there's like a country club nearby that I don't belong there, but there was like a short stint. I was like a pool member there, and they got rid of their tennis courts to add for parking. And I remember being annoyed because I was like, oh, I would have just started to play tennis. And I kid you not, I saw an announcement now they now built new pickleball courts, and I was like, what the?
You got the court space.
Whatever.
Yeah, I know, but thinking about it, I mean, you bring up a good point. And like with tennis, I'm like, I do feel before I really go out and maybe just start either challenging people or just playing wherever, I'm like, I felt like I need to get up to a certain level again, right? Before doing that. Pickleball, I don't know that I would think twice of just grabbing the paddle and getting to it, right? So
you'd be fine.
Maybe I just need to let it go and be done with it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
with you.
Next time we'll see where I'm at,
Yeah. Well, Jason, it was an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, for all our listeners out there, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe to Claims Never Sleep. You can find us on your favorite streaming platform as well as YouTube. And thanks for tuning in.
This is the Claims Never Sleep podcast, presented by Cruiser Mitchell, with your host, Megan Henry.